and welcome back to Stories from the River. This is your host, Charlie Malouf, and I'm joined in studio by a first-time podcast guest, Steve Ramjit.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
Steve, welcome to the pod. Now, Steve is the regional manager of our North region. And Steve, you've been with us for about how long?
Since about October.
Since October. So coming up on a year.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah, sure does. Sure does. You've been doing a great job.
Thank
you oversee how many stores in the North region?
7.
7 stores. And you came from Florida, right?
Yes, sir.
And you were most recently at, was it Cain's Furniture?
Cain's Furniture.
Cain's. And prior to that, you were at Ashley Global Retail.
Mm-hmm.
And you were at Ashley for how many years?
About 7 years.
Yeah, and you've recruited a few people to join you here at the River. Have you not?
I have.
Yeah,
some great talent.
Yeah, you've added some great talent, and we've had your girlfriend on the podcast before.
Yep, Gabby Kobos. She's the current GM of the Salisbury store, and she's world class. So I actually watched her video a few times to make sure that I was doing it well, because she's just an excellent presenter.
Yeah, well, it was not her first podcast. Apparently, she had done some podcasts at AGR before. But yeah, she is a pro. We'll see if you can live up to the hype. Pun intended.
Probably not.
Yeah, no. So we're here in the middle. We're getting started with our GLS Global Leadership Summit recap series. Steve, you were one of 19 memory makers. With Manny, with Tim Klaus, with me, and Megan Guzman, and Cherie Rivera, several other leaders who kind of got to attend the 2-day summit, and we were at the Park Expo and Convention Center. Was this your first time to attend the Global Leadership Summit?
It was my first time, and it was an incredible experience. Thank you for allowing me to go. Just so much takeaways that I'll have with me for the rest of my life.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that was your first time to attend it, but yeah. It's like drinking from a fire hose, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we're going to talk about one speaker today in particular who I've had to rewatch his talk 3 times already, and I still don't know if I can keep all the notes in my head. I've got to go back through it multiple times.
Yeah.
And there's so much good content and information. So we're here to talk about Jon Acuff's talk. Now, he gave the closing talk at GLS 25. So you might say, well, Charlie, are you guys going out of order? We are going out of order. We got a pretty good reason for that, though.
Oh, yeah, we do. Next week is a monumentous moment for Broad River Retail as we're going to 828 and our Purpose Summit.
That's right. And so this episode will air on Tuesday, August 26th. By the time we're cutting the ribbon, August is a big milestone month for us here at the River. From town halls to summits to soirees to grand reopenings and ribbon cuttings. And then we've got a great event on August 28th. We're bringing back Pioneering the Path, a Purpose 828 experience. So building on our heritage of Purpose 828, and we're doing a 1-day immersive retail leadership workshop. And but how does that tie into the Global Leadership Summit? Well, we've got 2 keynote speakers, and one of those keynote speakers is none other than Jon Acuff. I'm showing the workbook from our Pioneering the Path Purpose 828 experience day, where Jon will come in and give the closing keynote for our Pioneering the Path Purpose 828 day, just like he just gave the closing keynote at the Global Leadership Summit. That's pretty cool, huh?
It's incredible. A matter of fact, I think it was 2 days after the Global Leadership Summit, I texted you. I was like, you got Jon? Wow, that's absolutely incredible and such a blessing for all the memory makers in our company.
Yeah, Jon's a big get for us. And there's a specific reason that we got Jon. I mean, Jon's written several books. Many of us engaged with his content and maybe listened to him for the first time 2 years ago at GLS 23 when he gave a talk on soundtracks. He had a book on soundtracks. Have you read Soundtracks?
No, I have not.
But you're familiar with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about like being intentional with the thoughts that you're ingesting into your mind and how that can kind of really influence just your career, your life, and the direction of your life. And so we've been some of us have gone through his book and become a subscriber of his podcast. And so we've got Jon coming in for our Pioneering the Path Day. So I thought, let's have this episode from our GLS recap series air before he comes for Purpose 828. Maybe he'll listen to it and watch what we're doing. And also, he's supposed to be bringing his parents into the...
No way.
Yeah. At Fort Mill, South Carolina, because I think they've got a place in Blowing Rock. So I think they're going to come down and be in the audience for Jon's talk at the river at the mill.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so we're going to get into Jon's talk. I want to just know a little bit more about you for just a second.
Yeah.
So, Steve, you've been in the furniture business, retail business for about how many years?
In total time, about 13, 14 years.
Okay. And you went to Florida State University, right?
Yes, I did. Go Noles.
So he's a Seminole. He's ACC fan, I guess. Will Florida State ever break from the ACC?
I think we will, and I think it's most likely going to be the Big Ten.
Wow.
We'll see.
Florida State to the Big Ten. Why not the SEC?
I don't know that we add value to the SEC with Florida already being there.
Yeah.
And I definitely know we add value to the Big Ten.
Okay. So what? No doubt. So what is going to happen to the Florida State football season this year? What are the goals this year?
I think anything better than a 2-10 season is acceptable. I'm a huge Mike Norvell fan, but we've got to get it together. I see us probably around 8-4.
Okay. All right. Bold predictions.
Let's go Noles.
That's right. And Steve, just how have you enjoyed the Carolinas so far?
I used to think Florida was it. We had Disney and Universal Studios and a lot of places to eat. But when Gabby and I got here, and the trails and the parks and the food and the people, it's a different pace of life. And we've really enjoyed the atmosphere and getting to explore. Yeah.
I think Gabby's birthday was the Friday after the GLS, or maybe a birthday dinner. And I thought you were going to take her to a sushi restaurant because I was looking up a bunch of sushi recommendations for you guys, but that's not where you ended up going.
No, we ended up going to Fleming's. 9 out of 10 times, Gabby will want sushi. So I assumed on her birthday, she would want sushi. And she flipped it up on me. So we ended up going to Fleming's. But I will definitely check out those places. Yeah, well, Fleming's is a great choice. Kelly and I have gone there many times. Okay. So let's dive right into it. Yeah,
we've
let's
got
go.
a lot of content to cover with Jon. So we'll cut the banter just a little bit short. So, one of the reasons, having listened to soundtracks, engaged with Jon, but also we're going after a big goal for 2025. What we're going for, what is our revenue target goal?
$272 million.
Yeah, so 272. I think I've got a page for that here in the book. 272 million is our target for 2025. That unlocks a lot of our bonuses, Pioneer Prosperity profit sharing programs, and that's been the retail team's commitment. It's the anchor year one of a new 6-year vision to double the company's revenues by 2030, but we got to win this year. And we absolutely will. Retail will not let the rest of our business and our memory makers down. So we've committed, we have promised, and we will execute. No doubt. And it has been heating up. Now, when we kind of envisioned this Purpose 828 day earlier in the summer, this was what our retail leaders through a survey had said that they wanted more education. And so you're going to be one of the speakers. Yeah. I think I've got your picture here in this book. What is the topic you're going to be talking about? I'm going to be covering recruiting, and specifically how great leaders attract great talent, and using a 6-step process around an acronym of MAGNET that covers mindset, the to-dos. So I'm really excited to get in front of our GM team and show them the possibilities that they can have for their teams. It's a good looking picture of you here in your page. Yeah. Thank you. I don't know where that came from, but it looks good. And I think we're going to record those talks. We'll probably put those as episodes here. So we've got some great talks, great education that we're going to be sharing out. And I don't know if I should let the cat out of the bag here, but I may just do it anyways. Let's go. I mean, we've got this pursuit of part of going after 272 is embedded within that is it going to be a 95-day challenge because it's from our two major tent poles in the back half of the year, which is our Labor Day weekend all the way through Black Friday weekend. And embedded within that, you've got Columbus Day, you've got Veterans Day, you've got these holidays. But Labor Day and Black Friday and Veterans Day are 3 of maybe the top 4, top 5 holidays, and November being our biggest month. And so we're going after some big goals, 80 million in 95 days, 16 million in sleep. And so it's a big goal. And so Jon, amongst his 10 or 12 New York Times bestsellers, also has written a book that's called All It Takes Is a Goal. And it's the 3-step plan to ditch regret and tap into your massive potential. All it takes is a goal. So we thought, man, what a great topic. So he's going to come talk to us about how to go after goals, big goals, and also to get right into his talk. I think I saw in the little corner of the screen was he's got a new book coming out in April called Procrastination Proof. And what I really liked about Jon's talk at the GLS this year, amongst many things, I feel like he weaved like 3 books worth of content into one talk. And they all kind of synchronize together. He brought in a lot of things about soundtracks, a lot of things about all it takes is a goal. And then he's talking about stuff to avoid procrastination with that. So let's get right into it, Steve. Yeah. I mean, I've rewatched it 3 times. I'm sure you rewatched it. What are some of your initial takeaways and content that you want to cover off that Jon talked about during the GLS on Friday, August 8th?
Oh, Charlie, there's so many. And, he's such a brilliant speaker. New York Times, top 100 in the country. 10, like you mentioned, 10 New York Times bestsellers. And he just has a way with words that is digestible, easy to understand, but powerful. And there's so many messages there. One of the most profound messages is around goal planning. Mm-hmm. And he speaks about his goal to drink a gallon of water a day. And if you look at him on stage, he looks like he's a decently tall guy, but I suppose he's not. He joked about being 6'4", so we'll find out how tall he is when he gets here. But he mentions that, hey, I want to go ahead and drink a gallon of water a day. So what ended up happening was he failed miserably at his goal. Matter of fact, when he went into every room or every restaurant and whatnot, the only thing he could focus on was where's the nearest bathroom. Mm-hmm. And so he self-reflected. And like many of leaders do, he started questioning, well, was it the plan? Was it the execution? Or sadly, was it me? And so he started getting into this mindset, like, what if it is me? Like, and those thoughts, those soundtracks, right, that play in our minds that create self-doubt and negativity. And so he did some research and he found out that, hey, 92% of people, 92% fail at New Year's resolutions. Mm-hmm. That's an astonishing number, 92%. How do you do, Charlie?
Well, you hit on quite a few things. And I want the gallon of water. So first of all, he starts with jokes and self-deprecating humor. Yeah. he's definitely not 6'4". He said he's a lot shorter. So I'm curious to see how tall he is since he joked about that. But he said, I can't hold that much water. Yeah. That was the wrong goal, which is one of his frameworks for his goal setting is the review process. So he reviewed it, like you said. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not right. And all his memorable one-liners, which kind of helps you if you can. He had like 30 memorable one-liners. Yeah. Just take a handful of them. And then he called it like Quitters Friday, which is the second Friday of the new year, is when most people quit their New Year's resolutions. But connected to that I really liked, Steve, is that he did a lot of his statistics, and then what he would talk about would be based on like commissioning a study with like 20 or 30,000 people mm-hmm. with some, professor from Nashville or Vanderbilt or whatever school it was. I was like, how are you like surveying 30,000 people? But he's, said, I think a couple of the stats I remember, 92% of the people fail at their goals and 96% of the people don't feel like they're tapping into their potential. Mm-hmm. I am a goal-driven person. I can, but I know that once I find a goal, Steve, I get kind of maniacal about it. I've got.
Well, you're the right person leading us, son.
No. I need to maybe make sure I'm got the right goals in place. I need to make sure that I'm doing that review and assessment process. But I like goals. But I'm fascinated also with tapping into potential mm-hmm. because I share a belief that he's got that like, hey, we all have amazing potential, but are we really tapping into it?
Yeah, and to touch on that point, so many times we go to our leaders and we're like, we need more people. Operational efficiency, right? We need more people to go and do this and do this, and that's how I grow my department. When in reality, everything we need, the question we should be asking is, how do we get more out of our people?
Yeah, that
right?
Was a great
because
quote,
96% of our people know that they have more to give. So as leaders, we need to figure out how to unlock that talent that we already have with us.
Yeah, that was a great takeaway. And so he gave us a great framework. So continue going down like your takeaways. So after the goal setting.
The next thing that he talks about after commissioning the study is, well, why do people fail at their goals? And because he blatantly said on stage, people will not hit their goals. They can't. And so what he discovered is that the reason why people don't hit their goals, and this is groundbreaking for all of you out there, is because people don't like doing difficult things. Surprise.
Yeah, because they're difficult.
Yeah. So waking up at 5 a.m. and hitting the gym, or, being on that strict diet, or reading that book that you need to read, setting your finances, these can be for all of us difficult things. And human nature is path of least resistance, right? And avoiding these goals. So what he discovered in digging in even deeper, and he is a data analyst all the way through, all of his stuff is grounded in great data. He found out that, the reason why people don't is because it's difficult. And the biggest reason why, and the advantage to it, is it's not this physically imposing thing that's going to beat you up out in the parking lot. It's not Troy in Columbia Bloodline waiting for you. Troy's a big guy. You got to pop him up a picture somewhere on this. But what he says is what you need to defeat is the mindset. And it's not a physical imposing thing. It's here. It lives in your head. So the process of putting yourself in the right mindset, breaking those soundtracks that unfortunately we tell each other, because as he speaks about, unfortunately, we live in an environment of anxiety, stress, chaos, and all the things that we have spinning around in the whirlwind. And we've got to be conscious in breaking down those soundtracks, replacing them, and then repeating the good soundtracks so we can go and achieve the things that we know that we're capable of.
And I like how you framed that up, because I really like how he took the content from soundtracks and made it applicable to goal setting. And so continue. That's great.
So he says, and it's really powerful, as easy as it is to lead, because to some degree leading is inherently within us. As easy as it is to lead, it's also easier to not lead, right? And the biggest obstacle you have in your way is you. And the things that you tell yourself. You are the most persuasive person that exists in your environment. And in order to become your best self, it's about going ahead and overcoming the wrong things that we tell ourselves every single day.
Yeah, we get in our own way more than anyone else gets in our way. I love that. We got to say that quote one more time. He said, "You are the most persuasive person you know." And so we know how to tell ourselves to avoid the difficult things, or to avoid those things that maybe we don't want to do. But the thing is, that path of least resistance might keep us from a future vision that we want to achieve.
Yep.
And so he kind of walked through this framework of going out 6 months and thinking about like where we wanted to be 6 months, and kind of then bringing that back to today.
And one of the things that he does that's so powerful is a 3-step process in retire, repeat, replace. And so it's identifying those things that we tell each other, like, I'm not good enough, or, can I achieve these goals? And a matter of fact, Charlie, to bring it back into a personal perspective, when I got here, we crushed November. And in my interview, I told you, month 1, we're going to crush it. And I can flip it really fast. I don't know if you remember that. And we crushed November. All of Broad River did. And then December hit and January hit. And while we won, we didn't win at the level that we really wanted to. We were still tweaking and things. And a little bit of that self-doubt came in, like, am I still good at this? And inherently, I had to replace those thoughts with more powerful ones, more empowering ones, the ones that'll set my world on fire to go after it, because people can feel your energy too. And so I am great. I can do this. And it's taking that soundtrack and now replacing the old soundtrack, because our brains require instructions. They want it. They thrive on it. And so when you replace those thoughts, and it's automatic, when you start thinking it's your new soundtrack, it opens the door for so much potential.
Yeah. And didn't he talk about like the middle and how challenging the middle is? He said, like if you go to a race, there's people at the starting line and the finish line. There's no one in the middle of the race. You have a kickoff party or an ending party, but there's no middle cake.
Yeah.
So and he said, that's when it's going to get difficult. He said, one of the things, a soundtrack he tells himself to go through tough things is that the hills pay the bills.
Yeah.
And so that you can see vistas that other people will never see. So, but the hills pay the bills, meaning take the hill and know that it's going to be hard, expect it's going to be hard, but that's okay. That's part of the process.
Which ties into Craig's message, Craig Rochelle, who also GSL speaker, world class, took so much away from him, but consistency plus faithfulness over time creates lasting impact. And that's it. Nobody's going to celebrate the middle. There's no party for the middle. Maybe a good idea, but I did
have that idea. Like, we should start having some celebrating the wins in the middle.
Yeah, but it's those small repetitive behaviors. As high performing leaders, sometimes we get locked in on the result, but we don't consider the actions that lead to that result. And what he says is great thoughts lead to great actions, which then lead to great results.
Yeah.
So very powerful saying.
Okay. And then he said there's like 4 types of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a framework, there's a 4-step framework also that he gave us, which was dream, plan, do, review.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got that right.
You did.
Dream, plan, do, review is an approach to goal setting and to avoiding procrastination. And then he said, but you have to kind of figure out what type of person you are to figure out where you might get stuck. And so he said there's 4 types of people. Who are the 4 types of people?
Yeah, first you've got the dreamers, right? And I fall into that category a lot of times. I think we tend to maybe shift through all 4, but for sure I'm a dreamer, and dreamers are obsessed with the possibility of we've got 1,000 things floating in our mind. And that's why I'm glad I have Gabby, because he says in every relationship there's a wow and a how. I am the wow, like, wow, let's do this. And she's like, hold on, how are you going to go and do that? But dreamers tend to be obsessed with the results and like the final thing.
And so we're talking about this framework, and we talked about dreamers. Dreamers get stuck dreaming, and then in this plan part of it, what is the archetype that gets stuck planning?
Perfectionists.
Because they want it just right.
They want it just right.
Yeah, and so perfectionists get stuck planning.
Yep.
And then after perfectionists, you've got your
hustlers,
and then after your hustlers, you've got your
analysts.
Okay. After your hustlers, you've got your analysts. So we'll go through these archetypes, but you've got your dreamers, your perfectionists, your hustlers, and your analysts. And so each of these, wherever you are in one of these archetypes, it could help you avoid procrastination by knowing kind of what your weak point is and what you need to kind of solve for.
Yeah, and what your broken soundtrack is in relation to those 4.
Yeah, and giving yourself the permission. He talked about the permission to dream, the permission to plan, the permission to do, and the permission to review. So going through those permissions, those archetypes, that framework, it's just simple, but it's golden.
Yeah, and going back to permissions, that word that was actually came up to him from those 30,000 people that he has on his network, and the 339 companies that he's worked with, Range Rover, Microsoft, Broad River Retail.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go.
And that word permission came from them up to him as to how to break the chains of procrastination.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Good stuff.
Planners are just that. They are obsessed with planning. They want to be able to have all of the data sets ready to go to make a decision. And as you know, Charlie, especially in your seat, it is impossible to read every single book, to memorize every single metric. But you have enough.
Well, and he said Thomas Jefferson had every book that was in the world at that time. He said it's impossible today to have every book. He said there's 2.2 million titles released per year, and he said the plan. So there's dreamers get stuck dreaming, planners get stuck planning. Groundbreaking. But he said, but with the planners, he said, they just want one more bit of data to make the decision. They want one more, I like this phrase, dollop of data to make the decision. So yeah, and they could just get stuck planning before acting. And then who's the third one?
The third one is hustlers. And we work with a lot of hustlers. We've got a high-performing, energetic organization. And he talks about a story, actually. I want to dive into this a little bit, of a company he worked with that was using Salesforce as a CRM system to capture customer information. And the leaders of this organization said to their top performers, like, hey, we need you just to capture 3 pieces of data, probably customer name, phone number, and maybe email. And the hustlers in the group who are addicted to motion were like, whoa, that's way too much work. I can't do it. Oh, this is taking too long. And so hustlers have that mindset of, you're slowing me down, when in reality, from procrastination standpoint, they're slowing themselves down, right? And capping themselves from the potential that they could have.
Yeah, their mindset was they just want to go, 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 go. And they couldn't be bothered by administrative tasks. That was just like the worst. But the quote was, hey, if it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist.
Yep.
And as we know, trying to get our top performers to enter, we call it CXM. It's one of our pillars to follow up and to kind of be a great sales company. You have to be able to have guest information. He's like, can we just get the guest name? Can we just get their name? Who are we calling? So that, I think that was a great example. So hustlers. And then who's the fourth group?
The final group is analysts. And analysts are stuck in reviewing the past to predict failures in the future. And they're the types, their broken soundtrack is, hey, that's great, but we don't do it that way. Like we're a little different. Or, they tend to want to avoid failure. And he tells a wonderful story about Kodak. Mm-hmm. And in the digital revolution, what was happening was Kodak, as Instagram was popping up, which Kodak should have beat them to it. Kodak went and said, we're going to go ahead and invest in paper quality, mm-hmm. right? And wrong move. But what they ended up doing when businesses start up, there's risk in innovation. When it starts moving well and things are going well, they take that innovation and then it becomes innovation and protection. And they want to go ahead and protect that idea with everything they have, which ultimately leads to procrastination.
Yeah. And the analysts, they almost see a future where they're just predicting failure because it failed in the past. So it's just going to fail again. And that's not the way to go forward. He said, to your point, Kodak investing in more expensive paper did not get people to buy more paper. They were taking less pictures. You should have been investing in the digital space, digital photography better. So those are 4 dreamers, planners, hustlers, analysts. So determining where you are will help you overcome where your weakness might be in this whole framework of dream, plan, do, review. And so I like the way that the framework and the 4 archetypes kind of tied together.
Yeah, because if you really evaluate procrastination, I think a majority of us are, unfortunately, we have it at some points in our lives. We're typically going to fall somewhere within those 4. Mm-hmm. And then in recognizing our broken soundtracks and replacing them with the good ones is how you get past those moments.
It's like he almost made it seem like it's just easy. And I know it's not easy because it is difficult, mm-hmm. but he really distilled the framework down to something that's memorable and easy to adopt and apply. Anything else on Jon in his talk?
When Jon speaks about positivity, he talks about himself as a negative person, which is funny because he gives positive speeches. Mm-hmm. And so he realized at some point in his career that positivity has a higher ROI than negativity.
That's so good. Say that quote is so good. Say that one more time.
Yeah, positivity has a higher ROI than negativity.
Mm-hmm. And so keep going with that.
Yeah. And so, a matter of fact, I just did a Thankful Thursday call. We have a cadence of calls that are very powerful. And it's our moment as our senior leadership team to go and share knowledge. And I love those moments. And on our Thankful Thursday call, we talked about the power of positivity. And it's intentional. It has to be practiced because, again, people tend to live in chaos, stress, and anxiety. And in practicing positivity, one of the most crucial pieces is to make sure that you're in a great mindset. And he speaks specifically about productivity and that sales revenue is actually increased by 37% when people are practicing positivity on the floor. As a matter of fact, doctors too diagnose better and have healthier patients at a 19% level when they're more positive in their work environment as well.
Yeah, I love how he can take something that's people might think, oh, that's just a feel good. And he can say, no, there's science behind it. As such, I'm going to put it into my daily rhythm and practices and disciplines because by nature, I'm not a positive person. But if I want to kind of tap into and optimize my potential and my dreams and my goals, I need to practice this so that I can achieve it because it will be better for me. It'll be healthier for me and for the people I work with and for my family. And he gave us 3 of his soundtracks. He created like this card deck of soundtracks, mm-hmm. I think. And we just had some trading cards of our people, by the way.
He did.
But he had these trading cards of soundtracks. And the first quote he read was, never compare your beginning to somebody else's middle. And he talked about like his biggest struggles being in the green room and following like a Nick Saban or John Maxwell, who are so much further along in their journeys. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling inadequate or ill-equipped. And he said, but wait a second, they just may be further along in the journey. And so to kind of reinforce where he is and to be positive, I love this quote, never compare your beginning to somebody else's middle. And he tells his like children that too, or young people that like, hey, in your 30s, there's going to be someone who wins in life and is further along, and don't let that anxiety get to like, oh, I won't be able to buy a home, or I won't be successful because I'm not where I need to be by age 30 or 35. I thought that was a great quote.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so powerful and true. Even with leaders, like when you're comparing yourself to a leader that may have been in a store prior, or a multi who may be taking over a region, it's very true. You don't ever want to find yourself in comparison of, and that can put you in a negative headspace, which could lead to procrastination.
The second quote was, "Fear comes free, hope takes work."
Yeah, and he says it best when he's discussing planners and the soundtrack in their minds. And what he discusses is fear. You never want to play anybody on their home court, and fear lives in your mind. So paper shrinks fear, and he teaches that planners need to start writing things down, because get it out of your head and onto paper, and it'll shrink that fear.
Yeah. And the last one he said was, give your family the best of you, not the rest of you. And I'm thinking about like Thashunda Brown Duckett, who talked about like the diversified portfolio, and hey, you're not going to give your kids 100% and your work 100% and your spouse 100% and your community 100%. No, you only have 100% total. So you have to give each person like 20%, 30%, 10%. But if you give like your family 30% or your kids, that's good, but give them 100% of 30%.
That's right.
So give your family the best of you, not the rest of you. Meaning like, hey, when you're with them, make sure you're focused, intentional with them. And that's the soundtrack I need to kind of continue to repeat to myself, so that I'm not like exhausted at the end of the day saying, I've got nothing left. No, I've got to be a little bit more intentional about that.
Absolutely. And I think, and she did an amazing job. I think so many times we tell ourselves, because of the environment, and we want to go ahead and give our families 100% or our work 100%. It's impossible to do. It's setting yourself up for failure. And the way she worded that, like a diversified portfolio, 20% here, 10% here, 30% here. But as you divide it, make sure you're giving 100% to those different categories.
That's a teaser for Thursday's episode coming up with where Megan Guzman and I talk about Thashunda Brown Duckett. So to put a bow on this episode of Stories from the River, our GLS recap series episode on Jon Acuff's closing keynote from GLS 25. Steve, bring us home. Give us some final thoughts.
Yeah, give yourself permission to lead. Go after it. Quit waiting. Stop procrastinating and go win the day.
And I can't wait to have Jon at the river. Here we're just days away. And so Broad River, get ready. We got Jon Acuff in person on Thursday as our closing keynote for Pioneering the Path. Steve, thanks so much for.
Thank you, Charlie.
How was it for your first podcast?
I loved it. It was awesome.
Fantastic. So Steve dropping some wisdom and advice, and I can't wait to go see what the North region does for the rest of this year for its part of the Pioneer Promise on our own journey to go after our goals. I know that Pioneering the Path will continue to help us achieve that. So Steve, thanks so much for all that you've done in your less than 1 year here at the river. And thank you guys for joining us and checking us out every Tuesday and Thursday. Whatever we have going on at the river, which is quite often a lot, we try to bring some of that content back here to share it back out, whether it's talking to our everyday heroes, our memory makers, or just to recap some of the events or some of the learnings that we've gathered. So this is our Jon Acuff GLS 25 recap episode. Thanks for joining us every Tuesday and Thursday. Freshest content at retail here on the web. Whether you're checking us out on video on YouTube, or video or audio on Spotify or on Apple, we greatly appreciate it. And feel free to leave us a comment, drop us a follow, or whatever, as Jon says, whatever the kids are doing these days. So thanks so much. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. To watch this episode, go to youtube.com/@storiesfromtheriver. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.